Hi, I'm Patti Robron, one of the hosts of Speaking Truth to Goodness, the podcast where we seek joy and purpose on a burning planet. Our conversations are informed by art and activism and a recognition of humans' deep need for connection and affirmation. I started this podcast with my friend Jerry Atkin, the originator of the phrase Speaking Truth to Goodness. In this episode, we explain how we decided to add a guest host to our podcast plan and how our ideas have developed since Jerry and I made our first attempts at explaining what we wanted to do here. Most importantly, in this episode, we're going to meet our first guest co-host, Michaela McCormick, who will be with us for this series to be released over the next few weeks. Michaela has shared her story, and I'll read it to you today. Labeled a boy at birth, Michaela immediately began looking for her real, authentic self. Her femininity and love of boys was quashed at the age of 5. She grew up working class at the apex of American hegemony, patriarchy, colonialism, and capitalism, a time when climbing into the middle class was touted and doable. For nearly 20 years, mainstream culture lured her into grasping for acceptance and the American dream. Her consciousness was gobsmacked by joining the Peace Corps to avoid being drafted into the Vietnam invasion and landing in Tehuantepec, Nicaragua. 600 campesinos lived there, and many died weekly from salmonella-infected river water. Many had no shoes. Their average annual income was $165 a year. Her job was to collect $24 from every household, which very few had, for a connection to a new potable water system. She couldn't do it. With a jolting realization that it was her own country's greed and imperialism that kept her Tehuantepec neighbors destitute and dying, she came back home to learn how to get her fellow Americans to take responsibility for the immense damage we were causing. At that point, she took her first steps into personal and political transformation. She found her first adult male lover, started working for subsistence wages in service to the community, and joined a radical communal household and a network of dedicated, nonviolent revolutionaries. She began exploring Taoism and meditation. In the ensuing decades, she has worked in several movement organizations building parallel political structures and fighting racism, sexism, trans and homophobia, patriarchy, capitalism, and the destruction of our precious Mother Earth. During a 25-year career in conflict resolution and mediation in various communities, 2 universities, and India, she learned to listen. She has become a rogue Buddhist, inviting a world beyond greed and aggression, and into spiritual and social liberation for all. She continues to help shape a paradoxical world into tenderness and fierceness, discipline and spontaneity, and feeling our way into embodied, direct experience. She does this through challenging power, singing, dancing, wild land silent hiking, and writing a memoir, essays, and poetry on social spiritual themes. We are so lucky to have had Michaela join us. Now let's hear about the other 2 co-hosts as well. Jerry Atkin is one of the co-hosts of this heartfelt idea-turned podcast. Jerry's activism began in the 1960s, when he taught English and history in a secondary school in East Africa. His younger daughter was born there in a 2-bed hospital. Living in an impoverished, non-European culture for 3 years ruined him for being a complacent American. He has spent nearly 60 years working for justice and equity, especially around issues of race and class. And, though he is a writer and a photographer with a sophisticated eye for composition, he has made loving unconditionally his art form of choice. And I'm Patti. I'm the other co-host of this podcast. I grew up in a doomsday cult, where I heard the promise of a perfect world tomorrow that depended first on the destruction of this one. I'm still working to unpack that indoctrination, but because of my time in the cult, I can hold a better world in my imagination, one that I now believe humans are capable of building together without doing so out of fear of a deity. I am also a mother, and I'm driven by the understanding that a world which provides for and honors all children is going to be a better world for my children. I've been creating art and performance pieces in Portland's climate movement for the last couple of years, especially with Extinction Rebellion. And I've been learning a lot about visual strategy, how imagery and messaging can inspire and unite us when we so desperately need it. To bring this series to life, Jerry, Michaela, and I met for our first session on December 12th, just at the end of 2023. That session was long, as most of them ended up being, but so rich. I'm breaking it up into 3 episodes, which will be released over the course of a week to create more manageable chunks for you, our listeners. In this first episode, we explore personal stories and how our sense of agency impacts us, and, unexpectedly, the unavoidable and necessary role that anger plays in bringing us to activism. In the second episode, we'll muse on the ability to hold pain and tenderness together, and our shared desire to seek BIPOC leadership. As we wrap up the session with the third episode, we pull back the curtain to let the listener in as we plan a treasure map for what the rest of our sessions might look like. Through it all, we are seeking to speak truth to goodness, so take heart and know that you are enough today. We'll continue calling out good wherever we see it and making healing space where hurts threaten to cloud over the good within. Join us on this heartful adventure into how we got to and where we go from here.
Can I move this toward me?
Yes. How does that suit you?
That's okay. So is this good?
It sounds great.
Okay.
You sound great.
Michaela,
You sound great as well.
his microphone is higher than ours. I think he's trying to establish dominance.
No, I put it there, Jerry. Don't put this on her. I did that.
I told her to put it there, out of my habit of dominance.
Michaela the Dominator.
Tricks.
Hi, Michaela.
Hi there.
When I proposed this idea to you, or when we proposed this idea to you of being the co-host on the podcast, you asked a lot of really good questions about what this was supposed to be about and why we're doing it. And I felt like your questions drove forward this podcast, because I don't want this to be about me, or really even about me and Jerry, but we're trying to provide the fertile ground to bring in people who are growing something important in the world. And so this can, to extend the metaphor, this can be a place where we're going to fertilize and water these ideas and stand together in solidarity in support of the good work that each of us are doing, trying to make the world a better place.
Yeah, well, that would be my idea of a good time. I don't know if you've ever explained the title, how we got to the title. So what caused you to create this name for this podcast?
Well, I'm going to turn this right back around on you, because
I wrote it, didn't I?
Yeah, so speaking truth to goodness is something that you said to me, Jerry. You said it a few times.
So I wrote that. I wrote 3 things, a trilogy on talking about goodness, talking about the role of goodness. I did it in the middle of the night because I was a caregiver for my wife who had dementia, died 2 years ago. And I realized, I think I'm a very positive person by nature, but I just feel the activism I've done over the last 60 years, oh my God, can get grim, because sometimes the problems we're facing are grim. And the solution is not grim. I mean, Eduardo Galeano, one of my culture heroes, said you can't build a new world with bricks of shit. We can't be sour and negative and angry all the time. And so I got to thinking about that and thinking about what a negative society we live in there should be equal. If we're going to have bullying, we should have an equal time for praising, an equal time for supporting people. So that's really what the idea was, and it's an easy practice. It's like every time you see somebody doing something good, you say to them, "Oh, you just did something good. Thank you."
Yeah.
And the basis of that, and what I've found the response is, people are hungry to feel affirmed, not in an ego sense, but it's like doing the things we do are hard, and having them acknowledged. My experience is that generally no one has ever come up to them and said, "Thank you for this great thing you just did or are doing." And I'll tell more stories about that later, but that's where I got, we have to speak the truth to goodness. Every time we see it, every day, every hour, you see goodness, you acknowledge it. And I live in a community of about 270 people, and it makes a difference. I mean, it's just such a simple thing, but I find it to be a very powerful tool for building the foundation for the work we do. So that's where that came from. And then I thought of the catchy little thing about finding, joy and purpose on a burning planet. It's just what we're trying to do in the podcast.
Well, yeah.
And in our lives, in my life. So.
Absolutely.
So blah, blah, blah. Now, Michaela, welcome.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Oh, yay. We're so glad that you agreed to be our first guest host. Yay.
All right.
What is a guest host?
Great question. Jerry, as you and I talked about this, we talked about having guests, but that didn't feel quite right because I don't think we wanted to do something in an interview style. I think we wanted to connect, right? Because if we're trying to connect with what good is being done in the world and telling the people who are doing good that they're doing good and lifting them up and sharing the good work they're doing with the world, potentially to get more people involved or whatever, just to change hearts, you know? Jerry's got all of this experience. I have a weird background.
Sorry. Are we allowed to snort on this program?
Yes.
No, not that kind of snort. I mean, this.
And so I thought, let's bring in somebody and really go deep. You know, not just one episode at a time. And so I wanted to give that person that we're bringing in each time agency over this podcast, so that it will almost become a podcast made of podcasts,
Right.
in my thought. So that as you're here, today we're going to get to know you more and find out what you care about in the world. When we potentially put ourselves together, I just think we might solve some things.
All right. I'm for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about all this blah, blah, blah between Patti and I, who've been doing it for a while?
Well, I think your timing is impeccable.
Uh-huh.
And what I mean by that is that, our Mother Earth and all of its inhabitants has never faced such a situation that we're in now. And it's, you could say that the situation was created by us humans by acting on some of the worst parts of ourselves. And you're trying to offer up the best parts of ourselves.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true.
And I would agree with what you said so far, that we each need to hear that.
Yeah.
And we need to hear it collectively. And we can't treat it as if something that we deserve. We deserve the experience of a better world, but through my training in Buddhism and also through a number of personal relationships, I've learned, for me anyway, my very individual experience is I can't expect any kind of recognition or reward for my good behavior. That if that's the motivator, then I'm going to find a way to turn that into a commodity, a service, something that I can get more out of other people.
Yeah. he's smart. He's really smart.
Yes,
I think that's a really
She.
important piece. Did I say he? My God, man. She, her, not man, woman. Bad Jerry, go away, come back. Okay. What's clear, though, to me, I want you to continue, but I just want to affirm that my excitement at having you here as part of this is because I believe you bring a passion. I believe you bring the experience of hard times. I think you bring, I want to find another word than commitment to move forward, always, regardless. And that's such a big part of the story that we're trying to tell. So, sorry to interrupt you with my inappropriate use of pronouns. I sometimes think my pronouns are ho and hum.
That's one I've not heard.
That works for me. You can call me either of those.
Okay. Oh no. But what I want, the other thing I want to be clear about is what one of the things that connects us. We really love each other. And there's a kind of miraculous quality because we haven't known each other that long. But there's this complete love and commitment. And to me, that means we can only do good.
Mm-hmm.
We can only do good out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that might be because of where we all found each other through Extinction Rebellion.
Yeah.
So we all came to a place of understanding where the planet's at and that it connects to so many other things. Because I know that's not the only thing each of us care about.
Yeah. It also came from me where this trio that we're sitting in now began was with meeting Jerry in an Extinction Rebellion retreat last July. And he made it clear that he wanted to connect. And he pursued that. And not a lot of people take that kind of risk with a complete stranger.
Welcome to my world.
In fact, you're the only person in Extinction Rebellion who has taken that risk with me, to be so immediately interested and to voice that.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah. I think besides Extinction Rebellion, we're connected because we're supposed to be connected. I don't know why. But I know, just this trio represents an expansion of, we're not alone in a sense. Anytime we act collectively, we break through some level of loneliness. But what we're doing is acknowledging how much we need each other to be able to stay strong in what we believe. And just, survive and find, joy and purpose on a planet that may or may not be burning. I was thinking. So that's why there's for me, so much excitement in the three of us sitting down together.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head there, Jerry, that it comes from owning that we need each other. And not even most people who are in movement work, who are in work in which we're trying to transform the world, will not admit that. We're still pretty stoic and self-reliant, and that's true for me too.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's a lie that capitalism made us believe?
Of course. Yeah, exactly.
Then there's always patriarchy in the background. So, capitalism's evil cousin, patriarchy.
Yeah,
that'll come up in the podcast from time to time.
Potentially, yes.
Capitalism, patriarchy. You heard it here first. Oh no, wait. So tell us, as you think about this, what excites you and what would you like to see happen? What you thinking?
Well, this feels like a very good beginning, and so I just want more of this to happen.
We're doing it right.
I have hopes that we can explore, well, generally, that we explore the intersection, the melding of spirituality with transformational social change. That's really my ongoing pursuit, and has been for as long as I can remember, but I haven't been able to define it as clearly as I have in recent years.
You used a really good word, transformational. I think too often we who care about social issues are transactional. We're trying to stop something.
Yeah.
We're trying to make something happen. We're trying to get people to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important. But actually that word really describes to me what happened to me about 20 years ago when I stopped being so focused on what the campaign was and started focusing on who had come together in this campaign and how to do, in a sense, what this podcast wants to do is how do we stay together? How do we stay emotionally healthy so that we can last 60 years? And so to me, the work underneath the work is really what compels me. The work is so important, and I want to contribute in every way, and yet what I really want to do is help us survive and stay strong and use our voices, not just to speak the truth to good, which is important, but to continue to speak the truth to power, but with a greater sense of collective connection. If I look back at the civil rights movement, people had connections. They were willing to put their lives on the line together to win these victories. And we sort of lost that. So in a sense, I think, this is not a new thought, but I want to bring the energy of the primarily African-American community, which risk their literal lives day in and day out, not knowing if they would win, probably thinking that they wouldn't. How can we honor that energy? How can we sort of pick up the baton and say, I know it's a more difficult time. I know it's a really strange time in our history, and we need that connection. It was a personal connection, people taking care of each other, and that's actually what an affinity group is supposed to be for, and risk. But you're not doing it alone. And the difference between taking a risk by yourself and taking a risk collectively, I don't know, it's qualitatively different. So that's what we want. I want people to care enough about each other to be that much stronger in caring about the planet, for instance. I want us to be strong and emotionally healthy. And there's a lot of unhealthiness in how we have organized, and so that's certainly one of my goals. And I think the three of us represent the opposite of that. I think we are the solution to the problem of coming together to be stronger collectively than we are individually. Our three voices together are much stronger than our three voices one at a time.
Yes.
And I think that's a deep message for me and why we're doing this. And I'm excited. I'm excited about it.
I'm glad you took us back to the civil rights movement and the work of Black people. Because that's where I was first inspired to be an activist. I was in high school, and I was watching the protests in the South, Birmingham and Albany, Georgia, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I couldn't respond. I was much too young and green to know what to do with that, but it went straight to my heart and soul. And that's what I carried forward to the point where I was ready to act on those ideals and that kind of commitment. And, you know, and I think black people then, as before, but in a much broader collective way than I think our country had seen before that, was demonstrating how to blend transactional action with transformational goals.
Absolutely.
They understood, they felt, they knew that their lives were on the line and that this was worth pouring their whole selves into, and that they needed each other to do that. And that there would be great sacrifice, and that it was going to take a long time. And all of those things put together is what made it transformational.
You weren't alive then.
I was not alive.
I mean, that's what's
then.
really amazing. People should know that there are two older folks and one younger folk among us.
Fortunately.
Yes,
Do I count
absolutely.
as younger folk? I'm definitely middle-aged. I just turned 44.
Congratulations.
Oh, you think that's middle-aged? Mm-hmm. Get a grip.
Well, okay, so I so appreciate hearing both of your perspectives. And Michaela, what a beautiful, concise point that you can look to for what drew you in to caring about the world. It's beautiful. Boy, this is going to be a hard one to not cry through. So I guess with regard to the civil rights movement, though, my perspective growing up in the 80s and 90s was that it was basically told to me as though, isn't that great? We've solved racism. Because we have laws now. And, you know, honestly, I grew up in California, San Jose, where it was an absolute everyone of every color was there, and we all lived together. And so to me, growing up, they're telling me this in school, that we've done it, we solved it, we've got Civil Rights Act now, and I'm looking around and I'm like, heck yeah, we did. And then I moved to Wisconsin.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, oh. And I tell you, I was pissed when I fully figured out we hadn't solved it. And I think my anger over that has driven me forward.
Yeah. So Harry Belafonte, there's an amazing documentary called Sing Your Song about his life as an activist, which was extraordinary. So someone asked him how often he talked to Martin Luther King, and he said, every day. I mean, he was that close to Martin Luther King. But so then he's reflecting, we did all this work, we made all this progress. Why didn't we win? And he said, I think we blinked. I think we took our eyes off the prize. I think we thought that we had won these major victories and didn't understand how easily they could be undermined. Yeah. And he was, I don't know, probably in his 70s then. But on my door, there's something he said when he was 83. I'm 83. And it says, I just can't let the bastards win. You know, and that's the way I feel. I just can't let the bastards win. I have more positive reasons for doing what I do, but that's also one of my reasons is, this is not acceptable. This is not okay. It's just not. So I say that I think people are driven to do this kind of work out of love and out of anger. In the movement, too often anger is more present than love. And I thought about it, and I thought, I'm kind of an 85-15 guy. 85% is love, and 15% is pure, burning, fucking rage.
Rage gets the clicks, Jerry.
Yeah.
We're a little stuck because of that.
Oh.
Say more about that. What do you mean?
I mean that algorithms exist to separate us instead of bring us together, right? Because they're looking for what makes us different so they can market to us instead of show us how we're the same. I guess I mean, boy, I'm all flustered. I'm like losing my train of thought and everything. Okay, I'll get better at this, I swear.
Don't cut this.
What?
Don't cut this.
Don't cut this.
You editor. Do not cut this. This is the process.
Yeah.
This is how we feel,
Yeah.
what we struggle with.
Yeah.
So, don't cut this.
Well, it's true. I mean, it's going to come back to capitalism and patriarchy almost immediately because those, well, capitalism especially, the drive for money is obviously going to be a drive away from us connecting. I'd like to imagine that maybe we could rethink how money works and make it profitable to do things that better the world. But that's definitely not how it works right now.
No.
It profits by separating us. For example, I'd say about 100 years ago, it was a common practice in families that they would purchase a set of baby clothes. It was white, it was thick, it was durable, it could be washed, bleached, etc. They would buy one set, they would use that set for all their babies, no matter how many babies they had. Somebody in marketing for clothing thought, you know what? What if we got them to buy a different set for boys and girls? And oddly, I believe the colors were reversed at that time, where light blue was representative of little girls and pink of little boys. And so right there, baby clothing manufacturers could double their sales if they could convince everyone that this was the necessity.
Yeah.
And then think how many times over that energy has been doubled and doubled and doubled and doubled
Right.
with these new needs that are created. All the while separating us from what we actually need, which is to support each other, eat food together, take care of each other when we're sick. And we've missed it because we needed to buy things.
Be an
And I'm
emotional
angry
support
about
chicken.
that. Yeah, be an emotional support chicken. Be there for each other, no matter the form that it takes.
Yep.
I'm really glad that we're including anger in this discussion, and because it's one of the emotions that I felt the most when I was watching black people get hosed and attacked by dogs and murdered in the 60s on television. And I said earlier that I was too young, too green to know what to do with that. And it's a good thing. I would have been dangerous trying to act on that emotion at that time. And what I've learned over the years is that anger is essential and a blessing in the sense that it's one of the feelings that connects us to emotion and compassion, particularly if, like I did then, I felt anger for the people who were putting their lives on the line. I didn't have that for myself for the longest time, but I'm a transgender person. I knew up until the age of 5 that I was at least in part female. My feminine behavior called out suppression, repression from everyone around me at the age of 5. All I had to hang on to who I knew I was at that time was my tenderness, my femininity, my gentleness, my compassion for myself and for others that I cared about. With that alone, I didn't have the wherewithal to assert myself as who I was in the world. It wasn't enough to be tender, to feel, to be compassionate. I had to work with that for decades to the point where I started letting myself feel the anger again, but not only for people who were different from me, i.e. black people, but for myself as someone who turned out to be bisexual as well as transgender. And then you mentioned the word agency earlier, Patti. That's when I began to feel my agency. That I could, because I had this foundation of tenderness, I could allow myself to feel my anger and allow that, along with my compassion, to motivate me to act on the behalf of someone greater than me. So the tenderness led to a fierceness that has allowed me to develop as an organizer and an activist and someone acting on the behalf of others.
Michaela, at what age were you, do you think, when you came into an awareness that you could take your agency? You know, if 5 is when you knew it was taken away.
Yeah. Well, it started in my early 20s and developed slowly out of that. I was in the Peace Corps in Nicaragua. I was in one of the poorest communities in Nicaragua, possibly in the world, where the average annual income of a campesino was $165. Most of the people in the village I lived in had no shoes. I brought 7 pairs of shoes to the Peace Corps with me. I had them lined up against the wall in this little tiny room that I had in the village where I lived. And one day, a boy, I don't know, he might have been 12 years old, stuck his head in my door, and he looked over to this row of 7 pairs of shoes on one side of the room and me on the other. And he said, "You have a lot of shoes." "Yeah. You want to give any of them away?" That just crushed me. I said, "I'm not ready to do that." But I came home from the Peace Corps bent on learning how to be an organizer to change my own country, who I knew was at the bottom of the poverty that Nicaraguans suffered at that time. And that's when it began. That's when I started developing fierceness.
You know, it's one of the things that strikes me is that you started with tenderness and added anger. If you had started with anger, it would have been very difficult to add tenderness.
Yeah.
So I just think that's really telling, and how we release the tenderness and compassion in people that we know all people are capable of, I think. There's a lot of healing that has to happen so that can actually be added in. So I've always felt forever, at least for the last 25 years, seems like forever, that we're healers first. Whatever else we do, we have to be healers. And that doesn't mean we all go out and heal the sick. It means that how we interact with each other can be healing. And the loving acceptance that you embody, literally, as I feel from you, it's not verbal, it might not be expressed, but without that energy, I don't know how we move forward.
Mm.
I mean, I sit here with all this experience, all this knowledge, all this worldview, theory, probably, and realize that at the base of it all is compassion. At the base of it all is kindness. And that seems to come out of 60 years of activism with something as complicated as it's all about kindness. Feels good. Feels really good. So, yeah, I feel good about that.
Mm.
At some point in raising my kiddos early on, I came across the idea that anger is sort of different from other emotions in the sense that it never stands alone. It always sits on top of something else. You know, whether it's feeling sad or embarrassed or feeling injustice, I think, too, right? And
feeling afraid. That's what it's at the base of my anger.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, on top of fear. Knowing that, at least for me, who I grew up with, being told that anger was not okay, ever, at all, right? Even feeling it, not just how you express it. And so I thought it was so freeing to recognize that there are conditions that set up a very healthy anger, a very powerful anger. And I think what you're saying is embodying that idea. And I treasure so much the way you've used your anger, Michaela.
So I'm thinking about, and this is a very incomplete thought, but I have anger out of privilege. I have the ability, even though I was raised poor, I'm a white straight man in this white straight world, and so I get to pick the things that I'm angry about because they're not the reactions to being pressed down, literally what oppressed means. And so that anger is truly liberatory. But it's so difficult as someone who's I'm Native heritage, but I'm also experienced white skin privilege all my life. So to realize how much of a privilege it is for me to choose what to be angry at, and to not just be trying to get the weight off my body. And there, anger becomes primary. I mean, that's just interesting. So your perspective, where you stand in this power structure and in your own life, really determines how healthy anger is or isn't, seems to me. So we have three different flavors of anger sitting here at the table. It's really, I've never thought about this before. You ever think about this before?
No, not like this.
So this is a pretty important conversation we're having. And that's what I expect us to be doing. We're digging. We're digging down to see what's there. And we're digging down in our inner world, not just our outer world. And that feels like maybe what makes us different in this podcast is we're looking on how to connect our inner worlds and our outer worlds where both have standing, as opposed to feeling bad about either having anger, having needs, or it's no. We're trying to create, it's interesting. John Trudell, people know, head of the American Indian movement when they occupied Alcatraz, said that, this is the government does not have power. It has authority. We have power. So that redefines power as a spiritual value that's inherent in the land, in the world that we've been cut off from. So who knew we were going to sit down here and talk about anger? I didn't.
And that is why we're doing it this way.
Yep.
Wow, it feels big.
No, for me, the issue of anger relates directly to what I was focused on from early on as an activist or as someone who wanted to work for transformational change. Racism was the first thing that motivated me, that angered me, although in the earlier stages as a young child, I didn't know what to call it, what I was feeling. But it began when I was very, very young, in early grade school. My first best friend was a black boy by the name of Steve Ward, who I met in kindergarten. And for the next 5 years, until my family moved away from my hometown, we were best buddies. I came home from school one day. I might have been in maybe the second grade. And I asked my mom if I could bring him home the next day to play with me at our house. And her response was, "Is that the little colored boy you've been telling me about?" "Yeah, Steve, he's my really good friend." "Well, you know that it wouldn't matter to us, but we have to think about what other people would think if you brought him to our house." End of conversation. I didn't understand it at an intellectual level, but I felt this iron door come down between me and my friend Steve. We moved away a couple of years later, but then 3 years after that, we moved back to my hometown. when we left, I didn't have a chance to say goodbye because we left in the summer, and I didn't know at the end of that previous school year that I wouldn't be there the next year to see him again. But I came back to begin the 8th grade, and I knew because of where the neighborhood that my family moved to, and generally where he was from, that we would probably be going to the same junior high school. And so for the first few days of school, I looked high and low. Every time I was out in a hallway, I was looking for Steve. And one day I was standing outside of my shop class just before it began, looking down the hall, again looking for him, and here he came, walking down toward me, with his arms around 2 of his black friends. And I yelled out to him when he was still yards away, "Steve, I'm back!" I raised my arms like this. And he had been joking and laughing and fooling around physically with his friends. When he heard me and saw me, he immediately stopped laughing. He put his feet, one after the other, flat on the floor, looking very cold and unemotional, but kept walking toward me. He stopped right in front of me, and I repeated, "Steve, I'm back." He looked me straight in the eye, and he did that for, 15, 20 seconds, with his arms still around his 2 friends. And then he lowered his eyes, turned away, and walked away. We never spoke again. That's what made me angry. But I still didn't understand it, and I couldn't act on it. But I took that into my experience of watching those people get attacked by hoses and dogs on television, and then into learning to be, first into the Peace Corps, where I witnessed this terrible, terrible poverty of the people that I lived with. That made me angry. And that's what made me come back and get trained as an organizer.
I'm sure I've told you this story about coming back from Africa, and I had taken slides there. We're having a slideshow. And as we were packing to come back to the U.S. after 3 years, we had some big wooden packing crates. And there were 6 kids in the packing crate kind of rioting, 5 African kids and my daughter. I ran to get my camera. These are going to be the best shots ever. And it's like, as soon as the African kids saw me, they stopped, looked straight ahead, and it's like, well, there goes my Pulitzer or whatever prize I was going to win with that. But I took the picture anyway. So I come back, we're showing it on the slides. This is a very true story and a very painful story. My daughter walks in and looks at the picture and says, "Which one am I?" She points to an African child and says, "Is this me?" I'm going to cry. She points to another African child, "Is this me?" And he says, "Which one am I?" "You're the white one." So, in my mind, this tells me something, that racism is inflicted on us. We're not born with it. The next week, she's out in the street, she sees a black kid across the street, gets really excited, and the oldest of the other kids says, "We don't play with niggers. If you want to play with niggers, you can't play with us." My 4-year-old daughter, in tears, comes in and asks me to explain what happened. And literally something snapped. And I knew I was never going to be part of this mainstream society. I was never going to be part of a culture that pitted 4-year-olds against each other based on the culture. And I never, ever, ever thought of being part of the mainstream. And I wasn't. I intersected with it. I had to deal with it. But my course was set. I mean, there are other factors in coming back in terms of what you see after you come back from Nicaragua. This world looks very different, doesn't it? You see it in a new way because now you have new eyes to see it with. It was 1967. A lot of stuff was going on when we came back. But it's that moment. It's that moment when inside me something shifted. Mm-hmm. And I knew, this is it. I'm done. Mm-hmm. I'm out. Mm-hmm. So I think those are different stories, but they're the same story. Mm-hmm. Because the two of you, race was not an issue when you were growing up together. And then at some points, we don't play with white boys. So, or if you want to play with them, you can't play with us. It's heartbreaking. And, it makes you angry, said Jerry, touching Michaela. It makes you angry. And it lasts a lifetime. But you build around it. And you don't let that be the only driving force.
And in part, it's good that it lasts, because that anger, that grief, is a motivator. Yes.
Absolutely.
It's not what you should turn into strategy. It's emotion, and it's an essential motion for having the get up and go to try to make a better world.
Yep. And it's for me, your life is almost as long as mine, but not quite. When I look back now and see what unfolded from that moment in 1967, 33, 43, 50, 56 years ago, it's astonishing. I mean, I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't had that moment. And also coming back, and like you, Patti, you see the world, you're raising children, and you're saying, this is the world I'm raising my children in. Not okay, not acceptable, resist.
Yeah.
Which I think, knowing your children, you have done a beautiful job of resisting. I do call them wild animals, but in a good way.
I accept that.
Natural, growing up in their environment.
Yeah.
With whole emotional lives.
Yes. This anger conversation is making me think of some art pieces I did for our ex-art group within Extinction Rebellion. And Jerry, you asked me a very important question about them. I had drawn some things about some children walking up a path that led to a city of guns. Things like that. Some various issues.
Such an amazing image.
Well, you said, what inspired this? What made you think of this? And I said, I thought of what made me the angriest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and you could have said, what broke my heart the most, and it would have been the same.
That's true.
I mean, they're both true.
That's true, yeah. But in this context, it is anger.
And it's also about protecting your children.
Sure.
I mean, I think that's a motivating, what I project onto it. My kids are 54, all of them are way older than you are. But that need to protect life, especially life that you have born, literally. I mean, that has to be that's fierceness. That's why you're fierce. I love the word fierce.
I do too. Thanks for bringing that.
It's one of my favorite words. And you can be gently fierce too.
Oh, absolutely.
Michaela, you can be gently fierce because you are.
It's the most powerful kind, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, the kind of fierce that wields a weapon doesn't have the impact.
Yeah.
Gentleness legitimizes fierceness.
We'll leave it there for today and pick up the conversation in the next episode, where Michaela shares her experiences with Jimmy Boggs and Grace Lee Boggs in the 1970s. And we look at what it means for us to be white people in a world built by white supremacy. I'm Patti Robron, and my co-hosts have been Michaela McCormick and Jerry Atkin. Until next time, keep speaking truth to goodness, because goodness is all around.